Hello to all the friends around the world. Yes, Kausthub, thank you. Namaste.
Namaste, my dear friends from around the world.
Namaste. We are again here today with our great Dr. Kausthub Desikachar. We are going to talk today about the true and the only date you will ever need to have a date with your destiny. But before we start, let me introduce myself. Let me introduce our guest today, Dr. Kausthub Desikachar.
Namaste, friends.
Namaste. I think that everything is all right with the sound and the picture. I hope you hear us. I would just like that someone is write down something. If you can hear it, let us know, yeah?
Let us know, my dear friends, if you can hear.
Oh, Michaela is already here, so everything is okay, I presume. Thank you, Michaela. So today's guest, as was also before on the last two interviews, is Dr. Kausthub Desikachar. Kausthub Desikachar is a very lucky guy because his grandfather was Krishnamacharya and his father was Desikachar, which means there's some sort of Dharma path was already there, Kausthub, yeah? When you were already born. I hope you will share your story also. So you are a yoga teacher, a lineage holder, a yoga therapist, and a spiritual mentor. But also your Dharma was to become a father and to be a boyfriend now, yes, and to teach people about all this ancient knowledge and bring them into our modern minds, which are a little bit rigid. Yes. So warmly welcome, Kausthub.
Thank you, Katja. I will do my best. I will do
yes,
my best.
I know you will. So
I'm very privileged to be here with all of you guys.
Yes, me also. And let me introduce myself. I am Katja Ujčič. I'm also a yoga teacher and yoga therapist, a student of Kausthub. I'm also an art therapist, a coach which is following Carl Gustav Jung's psychology. And I'm also a therapist for gifted people. And in these Corona times, I thought, well, maybe it will be very nice for all of us to have a little bit of spiritual growth within us and ask Dr. Kausthub Desikachar, our teacher, to talk about several topics. And one of today's topics is Dharma. Kausthub will explain everything about Dharma, but let me first tell you why I decided to host this interview about Dharma. And by the way, I think it will not be the only one. We will see how it goes, because Dharma is a vast topic, and I think that Kausthub really wants to help us to have deeper knowledge about this. So the last time, Kausthub, we were speaking about death, and in one point you said that actually, if we are not following our Dharma in this life, that we are dead, that we are zombies, which makes me think like, well, it's a lot of zombies, almost all 8 billion people that are like in Earth now. Actually, we are almost all zombies. Yes. What do you think?
I don't know if I want to call all the 8 billion people zombies, because I'm sure that some of them, some of us, we are in our path. But I would say that most of us, we are asleep and we need to wake up. So in that spirit, what I would like to do before we start discussing about this Dharma is to offer a small chant to wake up everybody to this discussion.
Great. Thank you.
Oh. Bhadram karnebhi shrunuyama devaha Bhadram pashyemakshabhiryajatraha Sthirairangaistuštuvagum sasthanubhihi Vyasheva devahitam yadayuhu Swasti na indro vridhashravaha Swasti na phusha vishvavedaha Swasti nastarkshyo arishtanemihi Swasti no brahaspatir dadhatu Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste, my dear friends. And going back to the question, I don't think we are all zombies yet, but we are certainly in that direction. We are being drugged by not just pharmaceutical medications, but by consumption of things which make us very dull and dumb, like TV and a lot of wasteful internet communication. And so we become more and more insensitive to what is going on around us. And that is the big problem. And that's why we are totally disconnected from what's going on around. So it feels like we are zombies, but it's just that we are being drugged in one way or the other.
Yes.
And we need to come out of this drug addiction. That's all.
Yes, but nevertheless, you recall in the last interview when you mentioned Dharma, people who became very alert and a lot of questions suddenly just flooded. So why do you think actually people are interested in Dharma? So we are drugged on one side, but still we are interested in our Dharma.
I think both of us are very privileged that we are meeting such people, because there is one part of humanity that is actually waking up and seeing that this kind of consumption, this kind of life that has brought us to this state is not working. We have been promised something that what I call destination shopping. So we've been promised that, oh, if you get here, you will be happy. So somebody says, oh, if you get this bike, you will be happy. So they get the bike. Then they say, oh, if you get a car, you will be happy. Then the person gets a car. Then the person gets a house. They say, oh, if you get a house, you'll be happy. Then you get the house. You're still not happy. Then somebody says, oh, you know what? You have to get 2 cars. And then you get 2 cars. Then who's going to drive this second car? Oh, you've got to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend. So people go from one destination to the other. And people have realized that none of these destinations are actually making them happy. So they're waking up to a search that they want to find out what is it that will give them some kind of fulfillment, some kind of joy, some kind of nourishment that these destinations are not actually giving. And the answer to that is the journey itself, the journey of life, that we are not enjoying anymore. When we go to meet people and family and friends, we are more busy chatting on the telephone with other people who are not there. Sometimes when people go to some seminars, the teachers even sometimes are complaining about the people who are not there, rather than enjoy who is there. So life has actually lost its meaning because we are looking at destination but not the journey. And that's why people want to figure out what is everybody's journey, because the other problem is also that we seem to be on a journey that is not our journey. We are trying to live somebody else's journey. And that is why the concept of Dharma comes in, because in Dharma, we have to live our journey, not somebody else's journey. I cannot live your journey. You cannot live my journey. We each have to live our journey. And that is basically where the concept of Dharma comes in.
So yes, a lot of people want to be rich and famous and have a life of someone else. But then Dharma, our Dharma is just our Dharma. So my Dharma is just my Dharma, and your Dharma is just your Dharma. So can you explain to the people that are not so familiar with the concept of Dharma, what exactly Dharma is? Because I think that maybe a lot of people can relate this to a job, but it's not like that.
No, it's not at all like that. Dharma is something like a life purpose, or something that gives meaning and value to our existence on this earth. We can retire from a job, we can change our job, we can learn new skills to do a new job. But Dharma is something that is lifelong, and there is no retirement from it. The only time we can retire from our Dharma, actually there are two times, either when we are dead, we're taking the last breath, or when we are sure that our life is not enough to fulfill his Dharma, and we pass it on to the next generation to continue that Dharma. So this is what is called the life purpose. For example, in the old days, a king would want to build a temple for his subjects. Now, in those days, the temples were not built in 5 years or 10 years. Sometimes it took 200, 300, 400 years old. When you look at some of these temples in India, when you look at some of the monuments in Europe, for example, I've been in Rome, and the Pantheon is one of the most fascinating structures I've ever seen. And there's a name of a king on the Pantheon, and that is the name of the king who started the project, but not somebody who completed it, because it was completed by his successor, perhaps his great-grandson, or even the son after the great-grandson, because it took a long time. So the Dharma was passed on, not necessarily in one's life, but in a continuous aspect of life as well. That's why that's the only time when we can give up from Dharma. Dharma is essentially like our life calling, our life purpose, and it is not something that is always rational, but it is consistent to our true nature. That's why I chose the chant that I did today. The word swasta keeps coming back again and again. It means be true to yourself. See, a snake's Dharma is to be a snake. It has to crawl, it's poisonous, it's biting people who attack it, etc. That's its nature, you can't change it. A dog's nature is to run freely around in the farm. And so it's very important that it is able to do it. It's its nature. Same way, we also have something deep given inside us. That is our true nature. And that is based on, in Indian mythology, what we have accomplished in the past, either in past lives or our ancestors, so that we are guided somehow to come to that calling, and we are able to fulfill that. So Dharma is something much more profound. It is what defines us. What defines us not as a man or a woman or as a person with this job or a person with that job. It's actually much more in a global, in a bigger picture way. It's something much more fundamental. That's why the word is Dharma. It comes from the word Dha, which means that which holds. So we are held by that nature, and that's what we need to embrace. We have to embrace that true nature. That is what is Dharma.
So is it like that we are some sort of vehicle for like divine to activate our spiritual potentials, or like that we are some sort of channeling this energy and some programs, and are they become alive in us? It's something like this?
Yeah, think about it as like the software that runs this hardware. Now, because you told me I put the phone in the other room, but I have a phone that runs on, let's say, the Google software. You have an iPhone that runs on Apple software. Somebody else has a phone that runs on Microsoft software. Now, the Dharma is like the software that brings alive this hardware. We are given this body, these senses, to achieve our potential, to achieve and fulfill a certain purpose. And we need to tune in with that program. The software keeps guiding us, but if we don't want to listen to that software, if we corrupt that software, then the system fails. Like if my phone gets corrupted, the software of the phone gets corrupted with a virus or something else like that, then it doesn't make the phone function correctly. So I have to either repair it or the phone dies. And that's what happens to us. Either we have to recalibrate ourselves to find our Dharma, to be in tune with our Dharma, or we have to somehow die and be born again to fulfill that Dharma once again.
Mm. So we are carrying it with us, with our soul, also to next lives.
I believe so. I really, really believe so. I have been very fortunate to have been taught many things by my father, and there is an inexhaustible set of learning that is part of my tradition. However, my father passed away earlier than he should have. So there was some learning, especially some very powerful chants and other things that I could not actually learn from him directly. But after he passed, somehow these chants in different forms kept coming back to me again and again. And it started in 2012. And I started to try and study or learn these chants, and they come very spontaneously and I learn, and now I am teaching many people. I don't believe that I'm very talented in music or in chanting. In fact, when I was young, when I tried to learn the violin, my teacher was so fed up with me. He basically said that I am not born to music. But these chants, and especially these chants that are coming from my tradition, chants from my ancestors, they come very naturally to me. And I don't believe that it's because of what I have in this life. I have a feeling, and I know for sure, that these are some of the jewels that have been put in my programming so that I can use it to help other people gain or benefit from these. And now I go check how these chants are done with one of my father's very close friends, who is now like my mentor. And he is always so stunned that I'm able to have these chants come so natural to me, which is not the case with some other chants. And that's why I said I'm not musically oriented, but this is part of me. That's why it comes naturally. So I believe that Dharma is also something that is pre-programmed in us way before we were conceived, and surely, definitely, way before we are cognitive.
Yes, but Kausthub, you are lucky because you were born lucky, or you will explain us your story because you were born in a family that knew what is Dharma, that knew the concept of Dharma, and actually was somehow you knew you will become a yoga teacher and yoga therapist and spiritual mentor. Somehow you knew, or was some sort of breaks in between. And how can you relate this to us? Because we don't know, Kausthub.
Okay, so there are two questions in one. In this, I see that you are asking me firstly, how to know our Dharma, and secondly, how I came to my Dharma. There are two questions I see. So that's why I have prepared my notes after walking today for 1 hour, thinking about all your dangerous questions. And of course, the dangerous question of my dear friend Diana, who is already asked two questions in like 30 seconds. Now, let's take one after the other. And partially my story is integrated with this story as well. So my feeling is, in traditional times, there were 4 ways to know Dharma, but today we are not fortunate with these 4 ways. We have to try another way. Out of interest, because if I don't share it, Diana will ask me, what are the 4 ways? I will tell you the 4 ways. The first way is what is called the listening to the most ancient teachings from our tradition. Like for us, it's the Vedas. Perhaps for you, it's the Old Testament, or maybe even pre-biblical texts. And maybe there are some answers to our Dharma. The second way is to actually study examples which are in stories that are coming from our traditions. Like in India, we have what is called the Puranas and the Itihasas, etc., like Ramayana, Mahabharata. And if you look at all this, obviously we will be attracted to certain characters in these stories. And that's like a message that, hey, that's your calling. So, for example, in my mythology, I'm always interested in characters like Krishna and Hanuman. These two people have always been coming back again and again. And in some way, I know why now. So that's the second method, is to go back to old stories and old tales and stories from your tradition, and you will see that you will resonate. The third one is listening to well-wishers or a teacher who has our best interests. Sadhus, they are called, listening to such people who have our best interests. They don't have any selfish interest. And this is very, very true, because when I first told my father I want to be a yoga teacher, he said, are you sure? It's going to be very difficult. He was not encouraging, saying, yes, come on, because he was a yoga teacher. He said, okay, my son is going to come. He was not like that. He was actually dissuading me from being a yoga teacher by saying how dangerous and how difficult it will be for him. And I realized the full extent of what he says only now. And the last way is what is called Atma Tushti. You listen to your heart. I don't say the mind. You listen to the deepest voice in the heart that comes only when you are silent. So this is the 4 ways that have been talked about. And the reason why I say it's not valid anymore is there are not so many people who are able to interpret the ancient text for us. There are not so many people who are able to share these stories from our tradition to us. And we like more Hollywood than all these stories now, and that's part of the problem. And well-wishers, we have not people who we trust. Trust is needed for listening to teachers and well-wishers, and that kind of trust is disappearing from modern times. And the last one, Atma Tushti, we can't find because we are so noisy up here, we are not able to look into our heart. So I've been thinking in the modern era, how do we discover our Dharma? How do we discover our true nature? And that's where, my dear Katja, the first thing I have on the list is synchronicity. In my own personal experience, I've always seen that life is like a GPS. It keeps guiding you all the time. We just need to pay attention. Just like, when I've been driving in Germany to find one retreat center, I was driving with Sabina and Melanie at that time, and the GPS kept saying, Bitte wenden Sie, wenn möglich, take a U-turn, take a U-turn, take a U-turn. Now, life is like that. Whenever we are moving away from our Dharma, there will always be signs coming back again and again to tell us to turn the other way and go another direction. This happened to me when in 2012, these chants started coming. Wherever I would go, I would find either the names of these chants coming up or the books of these chants, the handwriting of these chants. My father has written so many notebooks that would come, and it would just suddenly come. And some of my father's students who died, but after my father died, they would come and give some notebooks that my father had given them, and they would have these chants. So life is giving a synchronicity, and part of that synchronicity is birth. I'm not born into a family for no reason, and I feel very blessed, and I really am so happy that my dear yogic brother Ananda is also watching this live. He's also born into a great yogic family, not by accident. That's part of the synchronicity as well. Each of us, even you, some other people, we are born, and we are privileged to have been born there. It's not just that just because I'm born into a yoga family, I am privileged. Life is a goddamn privilege. We don't appreciate that. That's the problem. We all want some other life. We don't want our life. In India, we always have a saying, the mangoes of the neighbor is more tasty. In English, you have the saying, the grass is greener on the other side. That's because we reject what we are given. That's the damn synchronicity. Even birth is a synchronicity. Why you are born to such parents, why you are born to such an auspicious family or such a challenging family is for a reason. It's a synchronicity. And that is very, very important. That's the first thing I would say, is to focus, pay attention to the synchronicity that happens, because life is a GPS. There is no way that life is not going to tell us what is our calling. We are just looking somewhere else. That's the problem. We are always looking somewhere else.
Yes, I agree with this. I find it with myself and also with my clients, but I think that a lot of people, they don't know how to recognize those informations, informations from their life. Yeah, I can find my life, but sometimes I miss them. Yeah, it's hard to have a clear mind about what is synchronicity, what is life, what is our mind, what is something else. So I think if you can explain a little bit more, it will be good.
Yes. My list does not have only one. My list has a few more points. I'm coming, Katja. Don't worry.
Oh, great. I can see that we are going to have another interview about Dharma with all this list, Kausthub. Yeah.
So here in this example of the synchronicity that I will tell you is the story of my father, how he came to yoga. My father was just coming back from a vacation from his work. He was not interested in yoga or yoga teaching when he was very young. He had finished his university. He was working as an engineer in a very famous company called Larsen & Toubro. It's still there. It's a Danish company, but now it's in Indian based. And one day, life guided him. The GPS popped up and said, hey, you've got to go in that direction. And he took it. A New Zealand lady came to my grandfather, who had been cured of insomnia. And he has told this story many times, and you can find this story in his book, The Heart of Yoga, and other places, where he was so shocked about the experience that an Indian man could cure a lady, very wealthy lady, from insomnia when medicine and other things did not cure. And that opened my eyes. So my father tuned in to that frequency. But that's not enough. The second part is when you tune into that frequency, sometimes we watch life as if we are watching a movie. We're just eating popcorn and watching life go by. The second point in my list is letting go. My father let go of his job then and there as an engineer and said, I will do this yoga path. I will do, this is my calling. This is amazing. So he let go of something that is stuck. And we have to let go of many things. It could be not just a job, but it could be certain ideas that we have. It could be certain attachments that we have, an attachment to a kind of lifestyle, an attachment to kind of a group of people and things like that, which we have to let go. Otherwise, we are not going to embrace Dharma, because somehow the wrong programming has created some patterns that has made us very stuck. Now, this is very, very symbolic, these two together. And here you have to understand that Dharma is non-linear and non-logical. So you have to make friends with the non-linear, friends with the illogical, because Dharma is not always, there's no why. So the more you ask questions, the less you are with your Dharma, because all the questions are coming from the head. You have to start listening to your heart. You should stop listening to others. People will say, oh, if you do this job, if you take this, you will not support your family. So many people told my father that if you take up yoga, you will not have enough income to support yourself, to support your family. You will not have status in life, position in life. And these are people I admire, because these are people who took that decision, which were totally illogical at that time. But it was their calling, because it was the voice in the heart and life as a GPS that kept coming again and again and saying, hey, this is where you have to be. And sometimes that's the issue. And this is where I tell you my own story. Since I have been born, many times I have been told by my parents or my uncles and auntie, even I remember when my grandmother died when I was 9 years old, B.K.S. Iyengar came to me and told me, because Iyengar is my grandmother's brother, he said, you have to take yoga of your family. And there was a lot of people saying this, and I had a rejection because I was blocked. But I did it anyway because I thought that that's what I had to do because my family expected of me. And I did it out of a compulsion, not out of a dharma. So that's why I failed. I had a lot of struggles. I was depressed, I think. I was very heavy, both physically and also psychologically and emotionally. But it wasn't until something changed in me in a later part of my life, around 2008, 9, that suddenly I realized, okay, this is my calling because I want to do it now. This is what my inner voice is saying, not the outer voice of a lot of what other people are saying. So that's when my whole approach changed. And I started seeing all the connections and all the synchronicities of life coming together. And that has been a very beautiful shift because I had to let go of the previous nature to embrace the new nature. And it's very, very fascinating because when you look at a butterfly, it has to let go of its tamasic, heavy pupa, cocoon, like structure to become light. And this is exactly what happened to me. And this has been a very painfully precious life learning. So that's where the concept of letting go and the concept of making friends with non-linear or non-logical things. Just because I say non-logical, I don't say it's illogical. It's a very big difference. It doesn't seem to make sense in that moment, but when you step back, you start seeing this.
The bigger picture.
And exactly. And to the other thing that is going hand to hand with this, whether it's letting go or embracing the non-linear or non-logical, is courage. We must not be afraid to embrace our dharma. This is the biggest problem. Somebody has asked a question about how to distinguish between inner voice and ego. It's very simple. When it is your inner voice, there is no fear. Not even a fear of what other people will think, what other people will say. I mean, people say so many things about me, and I don't care because it doesn't define who I am. What defines who I am is who I am. When you look at the sun, some people will complain of the sun because it's too hot. Some people will complain of the sun because it's too bright. Some people may complain that the sun is not there all the time. Some people will complain that there is too little sun in the northern kingdoms, for example, northern countries. But the sun doesn't care. Its job is to shine. Its dharma is to shine. And there is a philosophical concept here. There's only one thing we need to fear, and this is purely a Vedic view. I give a disclaimer. I don't want you to embrace it if it doesn't appeal to you. There's only one thing we have to fear. We have to fear God, that he or she will punish us if we don't do our dharma. And that's what is explained in the Upanishad. Bheshasmad vatah pavate bheshodeti suryaha bheshadamat agnischendrascha. The wind moves because it's afraid that if it doesn't move, it doesn't do its dharma, God is watching. The sun is shining because it's afraid that God is watching that it's shining or not. That God is not a punitive God. It's the compassionate God that is in our heart. And God is given us this gift to shine. We have to shine. And we must not afraid to shine in our true colors. We must not be afraid to shine in our true colors. Whether it's accepted by society or not, we should not care at that. That's a place I have come to now because a lot of people say a lot of things about me. A lot of people expect a lot of things about me. I don't let that decide what I should be. I only follow my heart as much as possible. And every time I deviate from that, I suffer. That's why we need courage to be who we are, because nobody may understand us. When my father took that decision in 1960s, nobody understood it. Maybe my grandfather did, but nobody else. And this is why we need the courage. And we have to listen to our heart. And the last thing I want to say in this regard is, or two more things in this regard, is actually give space, because Dharma is not going to happen like a switch. Yes. And this I have learned from my engagement with photography. My friend, dearest friend in photography, Mr. Prabhakaran, I'm sure he's watching this as well. We used to go every day to make some photos every weekend from the road from Chennai to Pondicherry. It's called the East Coast Road. We would go there. And one of the big lessons for me came there, which was I love photographing butterflies. And there were patches of fields where there would be a lot of butterflies. And when you chase the butterfly runs away from you. But when you remain patient and give space, it comes close and sits on a flower. And that's when I made so many beautiful photographs of butterflies. Dharma is like that. We must not chase the Dharma, just like we are chasing our job, just like we are chasing some success, some money. We have to allow space for Dharma to manifest. Because if we don't allow that space for Dharma to manifest, there is not going to be that Dharma. Imagine, that's the problem we have. I told you about the dog. The dog's Dharma is to run around so freely, so wildly. When you cage the dog in, there's some people have a dog cage. The dog cannot fulfill its Dharma. It becomes depressed. It's not free. There's no space for it to run, to manifest itself. And that's how we have caged ourselves with ego structures, a job that is a cage, an identity that's a cage, a belief system that's a cage. So we have caged ourselves. We are not giving ourselves the space to move beyond. People say, oh, this man can't do, this woman can't do. That's a cage. Dharma is not dependent on gender. Whether everybody has a Dharma. Dharma is not dependent on a religion. Dharma is not dependent on a country. Dharma is expansive. So we need to give that space of time in our life. Otherwise, if we keep running in this rat race of life where we are reaching the next destination and next destination and next destination, we are not going to fulfill our Dharma. So these are the modern guides, I would say, that we should follow to fulfill our Dharma. Certainly, don't take the thing that I said about the fear of God as the way to fulfill your Dharma. That could sound very strange for many people, but it's not in a negative way. It's almost like we have been given a gift, so use it. It's like that. Look, I've been given this earphone as a gift by one of my Japanese students 10 years ago. I never used it until you asked me to use it today. So we've been given a gift, use it. That's what we have to do.
Yes, great. These are very, very good and deep insights that you talked about. And actually, I had a similar feeling of a butterfly cracked and coming out of this tamasic rigid structure of myself a few weeks ago. And actually, I felt very tamasic, as you said, like very down. Nothing actually worked for me anymore. Everything was just very strange. But there was something even more strange in front of me that I didn't know. And this like soft, mushy stuff that came out like as a new me. So, and I give it space. Somehow I know that now from you, to actually give space to it. But still, I am still thinking about when you said, okay, I accept this. Then you said, okay, we need to be aware of the God is watching us, not like very criticizing, yeah, but like watching and acknowledging if we do our Dharma or not. At the same time, we have all this rigidity, ego, rigid structure and identity, like saying, no, don't come out. So we are lost.
Yeah.
So we are lost. We really need a guidance that you said now, all this guidance that you give us, it's great, yeah, but it's like we really need guidance, I think, like and many people, they just don't step into this, and they are stuck into this rigidity nevertheless, yeah, in the world now.
Yeah, of course, because we are trying to define ourselves through other people's validation, and that is the problem. And this is where the concept of the money and success and fame and other things that come together. When you look at certain people, and I include myself in this in the past, when you look at certain people like Freddie Mercury or Mother Teresa, they all found their calling very early on in their life. And they did such bold things that nobody else would have done it. However, they went through a lot of depression as well during their time of fulfilling their dharma for two reasons. One is natural, that I'll come to next. The first one is unnatural. The unnatural thing is that people start projecting onto these people what they should be. That's why the public persona of Freddie Mercury was so different from the private persona of Freddie Mercury. He was playing two different roles, and that was very depressing, because you're trying to be somebody else on the stage and somebody else off it. Which one is you? You suddenly start to lose identity. And this happened to me in the past as well, when I'm expected, oh, you are Desikachar's son, you are Krishnamacharya's grandson, etc. That's the projection. You are a yoga teacher, you should be like this, you should be like that. Then you start losing your own sense of identity, and then you try to become somebody else. You try to start listening to these voices. Even though you're doing your dharma, you get trapped in this, and that's the unnatural deviation that we have, because we are not reminding ourselves to be anchored in who we are. That's first. The second problem is that just because we say your dharma is something, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be at the peak of your dharma all the time. My dharma is a teacher, and I teach many classes. I am not in my best in every class. There may be some classes where I'm brilliant, and the next class maybe I'm not so brilliant. Take the example of that lady who wrote that beautiful book called Eat, Pray, Love, Elizabeth Gilbert. Nobody even remembers her second book, or nobody even knows that she wrote a third book, because she was at the top in the first book. That success need not always be repeated, because the gunas are changing, the kala and desha are changing. There are so many other parameters that you can get lost in this identity that I have to be successful every time. It doesn't mean you have to be at the highest success all the time.
Yes. So actually,
it's not possible. Just 1 year, the mango tree will give 100 mangoes. 1 year, maybe only 20. And this is part of nature. As long as it's giving mangoes, that's okay. It should not start giving papayas, then something is wrong. It gives 20 mangoes, maybe 1 year it gives nothing. That's okay.
And in nature, this is okay, yeah.
And that is why I say this is natural. And it's the same for us. I'm a teacher and I have to teach, but I cannot be restricted by the mode in which I'm going to teach. I always like personal interaction. but Corona has forced me to teach online. I have to embrace it because my focus is on the teaching. My focus is not on which mode am I teaching, where am I teaching, who am I teaching. That becomes that we are becoming lost. As long as there is a sincere student on the other side, that's all that counts. This is very, very important. And that's what we have to remember. We have to continue our Dharma. Whether we will be at the highest success always, we don't know. We don't know.
So it's actually, it's difficult, Kausthub, to find Dharma. It's difficult to stay on the path of Dharma. And actually, we don't know if we will manage to the end. We can actually postpone it, take it to either our children or to our next life. It's a heavy job, it's a very heavy job, I think, given from divine, yeah?
I don't think it's difficult.
Why?
We have made it difficult because we are looking somewhere else. That's the problem. All the questions that are coming, it has the same answer.
Same, yeah? Mm-hmm.
The answer is very simple. We just have to start looking in the right direction. If we are trying to find an answer somewhere else, or we only want one particular kind of answer, that's not going to help.
Yeah.
We need to embrace the answer in the form in which it comes. In the form in which it comes, we have to embrace the answer. There's a great story in my tradition. Natha Muni, my ancestor, he had a dream that one night Rama is going to come to visit him, and that he needed to prepare a meal. And Rama is this beautiful god in the Ramayana, tall, slender, beautiful god. And Natha Muni prepares food every day and is waiting. Prepares food every day and is waiting. One day, and this is when Natha Muni was very, very old, in the last part of his life. One day, a very old and kind of ugly-looking man comes, who in those days they were street artists, where they would beat the drum and they will have a monkey that is performing, tricks, and they would beg. So nowadays they give money, but in those days they were giving food. So this beggar was coming and doing with the monkey all tricks and asking for food from Natha Muni, and he said, "Hey, there is some food there, can you give me?" And Natha Muni said, No, that's not for you. That's for Rama, who came in my dream. Please go, don't disturb me. So he sent away this person, and then Natha Muni is continuing. Rama does not come. And Natha Muni starts getting depressed, and he starts praying to Rama. Rama, I asked, you told me you will come, why you didn't come? In that night, Rama came in his dream and said, I came, but you sent me away. When you look at the mythology, Rama is always with Hanuman, the monkey. Mm-hmm. So the guy who came with the monkey was Rama and Hanuman, but Natha Muni could not see it because he was attached to that form. It's a true story, and it's a true story. This is what we have the problem. We want Dharma through our definition.
Yeah, exactly.
Through our conditions. Oh, I want to do my Dharma, still be rich, still be famous, still be appreciated by everybody. Yeah. That's not Dharma. That's not the way Dharma works. Maybe you will be appreciated, maybe you will not. Maybe you'll be poor, maybe you'll not. My grandfather was both the poorest and the most richest person. He was very poor with money, but he was so rich with knowledge, so rich with learning, so rich with the connection to the divine. That's what Dharma is about. But the problem is we want to control the framework within which we want to accept. We want to control Dharma, and that's the problem. The moment you let go, that's why I use the word letting go. The moment you let go of control, Dharma manifests.
It's because we don't know actually what to expect, and the fear helps us to control. But we need to be like, if we are a mango tree, need to take care of it. Just step aside and do the nature, do its way, its course, and give us the mango fruits. Yes, I think this is very good analogy you said. So
Yeah, of course, and we have to remind everybody that each one should not try to seek a dharma in what they like.
Yeah.
Dharma need not be what you like, but it is what is right for you. It is what is right for you.
For example,
people think that I'm happy when I'm teaching, or it's a great privilege. It's a very big challenge to be born in a yoga family. And I keep having this conversation with my dear brother Ananda, who has the same problems like I've had, being born to such a great family of yoga masters, and now his children, my daughter, the same problems. It's not easy, but it is what is right.
Yes, exactly. Let's check the questions. Now we got a lot, Kausthub, you got a lot, so let's go from down up. Ingrid is saying that she loves mango fruits. Very good. Diana popped out so many questions. We'll read the last one. Diana, okay. How do we start inquiring our hearts to find our Dharma?
I thought I just gave all these points for that.
The points, yes, yeah.
But at the end of it, I will also say that one of the things that really helps us to quieten the mind so the heart opens is mantra practice.
Yeah.
That's the tool I would recommend among many other tools.
Yes, exactly. We will, in the end, Kausthub will give us one tool, but we will have another interview because we are already in 1 hour. You cannot imagine. The next time, the next interview, we'll speak more about real actions and real life practical stuff. We need to cover the basics now in order that you all understand actually what Dharma is, that we are all some sort on the safe page. So probably you will start to think about and self-reflect about your own Dharma, about your own destiny and life path. And life purpose in the earth would be very nice if you reflect until the second interview. So we will have more information like coming from your life. I wanted to ask all of you great guys that you are listening to us before when Kausthub was speaking about synchronicity, if you ever had that kind of synchronicities and when did you start actually to listen to them? For example, in my case, I never were listened to this synchronicity until I was like, I don't know, 35 or something like this, you know, when they really started to knock on my doors, knock on my head, like it was really very, very loud and alarming and also hurtful, yeah. And then was just something quick, just straight into the head went, or into the heart, and I said, yeah, and I didn't question anything. I knew this is it. This is the truth. And this is my example, for example, to help people.
It's a very good way that you said, you used the word alarming.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how it is in Western countries. In India, we have a little alarm clock that actually is very gentle and polite in the beginning when it starts ringing. It's very polite. It's very soft on. Then you don't wake up, it becomes a little bit more louder. Then it becomes a little bit more until it becomes really, really loud. That's our alarm clock. And the same way, if we don't listen, it'll start becoming louder. But the problem is we don't listen. Yeah. One of the problems, and I think I would like to say here, because you also said there's a lot of questions. It's good to have a lot of questions to me or to us in this context. Yeah. But if you keep asking the questions, but you don't create space for the answers to manifest, then what's the point of asking the question?
Yeah.
And when the answer is right in front of you, we say, no, that's not the answer I want. I want some other answer. Then there's no need, there's no point in asking that question. Sometimes the answer is right there.
Yeah.
But we don't see it. And in this case, when I can say about myself, because of all the pressure that was put on me from a very young age, I didn't want to be yoga teacher. I ran away from yoga. I went furthest away from my home to study in the university in North India because I ran away when all the time my teacher and my Dharma was right in front of me, but I was looking somewhere else. And that's the thing. Sometimes we are looking so busily elsewhere or in the form that we are attached to that we suffer because we don't do our Dharma. Please remember that Dharma, I always say this, the Dharma of the bulb is to shine. But don't forget, the bulb cannot shine until there is some other Dharma, the holder, the bulb holder who holds the bulb. It's not in every one of our nature to shine. So don't think that shining brightly in public is the Dharma for everybody. For some of us, the Dharma may be to be the bulb holder. Mm-hmm. For my father, for many years, it was my mother who held him from behind. Nobody saw my mother at that time. Only now they see her because now there's no need for her to do that Dharma. But for many years, she was the one who was holding the bulb so somebody shines. So some of us, we need to be the bulb. Some of us, we need to be the bulb holder. Some of us, we need to be the wire. Some of us need to be the switch. And some of us need to be the finger that turns on the switch. And all this is individual Dharma. We cannot succeed without each other.
Yeah.
We cannot.
So with that, we can light out the world with all these different dharmas, because just the bulb cannot light by itself. Yeah, and this is a very good point. Yeah. Also, for example, being a mother can be dharma in a way, also, or not.
It's a very controversial question.
I'm sorry.
And it's very difficult for me to answer because I am a man, I am not a mother. Yeah. But I've seen it from teaching a lot of mothers and observing my own mother and many other mothers. Being a mother is not necessarily a dharma in this context, but it's more like a temporary dharma for one stage of life. And then the children grow up, we have to let them go and let them do their dharma. We become friends of our children after some point. We are no more parent. And so we can't be the mother's dharma for the rest of our life. That is becoming a little misconstrued with the dharma. The same as a father, or something like that. The same as a teacher.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah? Okay.
At some point, we have to let our students become independent and move on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And that's part of the dharma. I cannot hang on to my student all my life, or a doctor cannot hang on to the patient all his or her life. At some point, they have to let go. And I think it's the same with whether it's a mother or father or any other parent.
Yes. Let's check some questions, Kausthub. So, Philip Rigo is laughing all the time, so I'm okay. I am great with this, Philip. You are in good mood. David is saying, Davide, I'm sorry. Davide, are you, Kausthub, are you saying that the fruit of our actions in the path of our Dharma is not the point? Is it better to sit on the action or do that on the result of it?
Karmanyevadhikarastu ma phaleshu kadachana. In the Bhagavad Gita, we are taught very strongly that we are only responsible for the actions, not of consequences of the actions. We can only act, and we cannot really do anything about the consequences. It's not in our control. I acted, I took a flight, I went to Europe because I was supposed to teach. In this date, I'm supposed to be in Europe, in Brussels, teaching. My wonderful yoga therapy students, some of whom are watching.
Yes.
But I'm not the master of all the consequences. I'm back here in India because the consequence is not in my control. So our goal is only to act with full consciousness in our heart and to do what we believe is right, not what we think is right. And then there is no regrets. We cannot control the consequences. We cannot. It's very, very important. And you talk about Philip's jokes. My friend Ananda is also laughing at our jokes. He's watching together with his wife and his dear son Anandraj. I don't know if his daughter is watching. She thinks I'm crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. His daughter and my daughter.
This is good. Being good.
We have daughters the same age, both of whom think their fathers are crazy.
But this is good. I think being crazy, in this world of all the stuff being normal, we don't need to be normal. I think if we are on Dharma path, it's usually people perceive as crazy. Also, in my case, I also left a job 1 year ago and started my art therapy and yoga therapy, and I'm trying to help people in a way that I can to know their own Dharma. Actually, I'm a therapist for gifted people, which for me is finding their Dharma. I always include spirituality, and actually a lot of people, not my parents, they are proud of me. This is very good. Thanks, Mom and Dad. So a lot of people said, wow, completely crazy. Where will you get the money? But I don't know. It's something will happen. But it's difficult. The mind can start to rattle very, very often. But it's something, the light in the heart, that it's something I just know.
Yeah.
So,
we have some more questions coming up.
Ella is, I hope I pronounce it right. She's asking, so doing your Dharma for the wrong reason could be as painful as not doing it. Doing Dharma for the wrong reason, like being a teacher and then collect more, you do more in your own interest as a teacher, for example. Let's see if this is what she meant. I think could be painful as not doing it. So
as I explained in my own case, even though I was teaching, I was not necessarily very clear about why I was teaching. It was not coming from my own heart, and that was painful. That was very heavy. But I don't think not doing Dharma at all is less painful. Not doing Dharma at all is going to be even more painful. I think that is even more painful.
So all of
we should avoid that situation where we don't do our Dharma.
Emma is asking, so being too busy with one's job or general business of life could actually prevent one from discovering one's Dharma. So first step, she's asking, is to slow down.
Humanity has taken a very bad turn in the last century even when you go back to about 100 years ago, a little more than 100 years ago, before the wars, people were not working like 40 hours a week. The 8 hour per day came when the war started, when they had to make supplies in large quantities and ship. So before that, they were not working like crazy. And the concept of vacation like we have did not start until the early 1900s. Before that, people were vacationing every day. In the afternoon, they were resting. In the evening, they were resting. So they had time and space to do their dharma. This changed in the last 100 years. That's why in the last 100 years, we have suffered a lot compared to previous. But it's not new. There's always been dark era, an era with brightness. And it's more challenging now because fortunately or unfortunately, we are in the dark era. And I say fortunately because it's only in the darkness that we will start to seek light. When everything is bright, we don't seek it. So in some ways, the dark era is helping us to open our eyes to see light, which we would probably take it for granted if light was all around.
Great. So your friend Ananda is saying courage and humor and being crazy. These are the great advices. Yeah, actually to be very courageous, to be crazy. You know, I think this is very, very big fear also in collective unconscious that we are perceived as crazy. We will be in the mental institution. So just be crazy. Yeah. Yes, everyone with foresight in human history was considered crazy by others. Ananda, yes, exactly. Crazy is the best way to be. I agree completely. Actually, I like being a little bit crazy. Also with, for example, my clients, more workshops that I have. It's a space, you know, to create, to really be crazy, but actually it's normal. Huh?
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say, because you talked about Emma's question about job and things like that.
Yeah.
And I see that this is the biggest danger for yoga or for any other profession like psychotherapy or art therapy and things like that, is the danger that yoga is facing now is not coming from outside of yoga, but within yoga. The institutionalization of yoga through all these associations, organizations, whether it's from India or from abroad, especially from Western countries like America or Australia or Europe, where they're trying to professionalize things, is making yoga more restricted, and it is a danger. Yoga should not be under this kind of umbrellas at all, and such institutions and organizations are a danger to yoga, are a great danger to yoga, because they kill the freedom that is needed for Dharma to expand. It's like a cage. All these institutions will basically weaponize yoga and other things. They will put some boundaries, and the moment you are crossing this boundary, you are going to be punished. And this is the danger. And I really would like everybody to be independent, and that's why I don't really care about these institutions, especially that are trying to control and put boundaries and cage yogis and yoga teachers. And here I would really hope that all my colleagues in yoga, especially from India, will also follow that example and be independent rather than be caged by these dark energies through these associations. It's very dangerous. And yes, I really feel that each person who is calling themselves a true representative of yoga must remain independent. Dharma is not based on professional frameworks. That's too restrictive. That's a job description. That's not Dharma.
And especially, yes, to all yoga teachers to actually do their best and like acknowledge that, how would I say, like some sort of secret yoga like methods and all this philosophy, real philosophy, what yoga is. It's not to contain in institutions. So you will have now your new online yoga course. I just received this morning, I think, an email about yoga rahasya. Yes.
Yoga Rahasya Natha Muni is the online course I'm doing. Yes. So if anybody is interested, please feel free to come.
Yes, you will start. Yeah. They can check.
Yeah.
We will post a post if someone in the comments later on when this interview is over. So I am now on your online course about meditation, Dhyana Malika. So it's a great course about what truly meditation is. And I recommend all online courses of Kausthub, which is really, really very great. And you get even more knowledge that we cover here in 1 hour. And a lot of tools also, yes.
Yes, and one thing I also want to say about freedom we talked about is we must not restrict ourselves within yoga only to find all the answers. Yoga is one of the systems. It's not the only system. There are many other systems. And like you are doing art therapy, that's another system. Psychotherapy is another system.
Yes.
There are many spiritual systems. And we have to remain open to try different approaches. We must not always try to find the answer through one system only. That again is a restriction, and such people who believe that way will not find the answers. That's why I would like you to try other systems as well, just to see if that is your calling or that is helping you in the calling. And that's why I also want to recommend any of you to try art therapy with Katja, for example.
Oh, yes.
Because she is a crazy, crazy person who can fix you.
Thank you.
I cannot fix. But what I'm saying is that in order for us to find our true calling, we have to remain open, not restricted. And that's the biggest teacher I have heard. I've received from my father. He never restricted me to pursue other things. That's why I've been very privileged to study psychology in the University of Madras, something which I would never have done if not for my father's openness and encouragement. So we should try different things before we find our true calling. It's not like, oh, I try once, I don't find it. Sometimes we have to try many times before we really find what is our true calling.
Yes, actually, it's the paths to the truth are many, but in the end, Dharma is one that we have, and we are searching for this truth. So, well, in art therapy, what we do is a lot of synchronicity and a lot of let go. So all the things that you're mentioning, we are doing all this. It's a deep dive in subconscious. It's not art therapy in means of that you need to be a great artist. It's just a way to go to the our psyche. It's actually a process, a therapy process. And so it helped change me also with yoga therapy, but also a lot of other people. So if someone wants to join my team, my crazy team, you can. I will put email below here on the post. So the last question, Kausthub, you said that you will give us a small tool, one method today But let's say in approximately 2 weeks, we will let you know on this webpage and on all the other social media and online and on email about the next interview about Dharma, that we will go a little bit more deeper and more practical. Yeah. But now, Kausthub, one tool for us, one little gift to start with.
As I mentioned earlier, for me, the biggest support to rediscover all these things and to listen to my heart comes from the practice of mantras. Prior to 2012, I was not a very big fan of chanting or mantras. I even did not teach mantras or chanting to anybody. I would always ask them to go to my mother or my sister or somebody else. But mantra somehow changed everything in me. And that's what I would recommend very strongly. And if you are not open to mantra, try what is called in the West positive reaffirmations, because mantra in some way are some kind of reaffirmations. But the beauty about Sanskrit language and mantras in Sanskrit is they are vibrational sounds. They recalibrate our inner vibrations to bring out our best. In the process, it may not be comfortable or convenient, but it's definitely something that has been the most profound tool that has helped me. And if you're wondering what mantra should do, the most simple mantra to start with, in my opinion, always is the Shanti mantra. Om Shanti. It's a very simple sound mantra that makes us more peaceful. And the more peaceful we become, the more we listen to our heart. And that's the answer. The answer is in the heart. And I really hope each one of you will find a way to listen to your heart. I really, really hope. I mean, that's where the answer is. The answer is not in a secret book somewhere or in an outside. Dharma is self-embedded. It's self-contained. And that's why we need Swadhyaya. And Swadhyaya is defined by Vyasa as Swashaka Adhyayanam Pranavadi Mantra Japova. Either it is the chanting of mantras or texts. This is how we have to do. So that's why mantra is a very powerful tool. And again, mantra is not only from the Vedic tradition. There are Buddhist mantras, there are Christian mantras, there are Islamic mantras, there are Jewish mantras, there are mantras from the pagan tradition. So keep your mind and heart open. You will find the answers. And Diana, I hope you're listening. You will find the answer.
There are special people that needs a little bit maybe more time, but when it's open, it's explosion. Yeah, I know from my case. Yeah, when it's open, it's open. So, Kausthub, do you recommend, for example, that people can, until our next interview, do this every morning, every evening for a few times? Om Shanti.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think for about 12 times they can do it. Sit quietly. So keep all your phones and other electronic devices in another room.
Yeah.
And sit quietly and do the chant. Silently. You don't have to do it very loud and very powerful, just silently. And at the end of 12 times, you just sit quietly for some time. Try to go inside, not outside. And I'm sure it will help. And I want to reassure my dear Diana that she was like Katja before. The previous version of Katja was also
really? Hello.
Don't you remember how many questions you were asking in our therapy training? You were called Professor Katja.
Yeah, doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, Dr. Katja.
Yes, but I still it's my food actually for intellectually very open people. It's like food, and for me, I completely understand all this question. But the point is not about me more than you, Kausthub, because you gave me space. Yeah,
Yes.
actually, I was first time in my life I experienced, and this is very touching for me, that someone gave me space for all the questions that can just room into my head. I need an answer, otherwise I would be. "Whoa." And they need and it was really a need. And Kausthub, actually, you answer all my questions in a very profound way, and slowly this whole empty hole of not knowing anything about anything just slowly start to be filled up until the point that I can now also teach other people. So I completely understand people like this. This is why I also I am working with the gifted people, not just IQ, but on all levels. But I understand that it's like really like food, this knowledge. So maybe Kaustubh, just one point, that let's do this Om Shanti just once, that the people can know. I know that 99% of people know Om Shanti, but maybe just for the 1% we can chant this mantra. You can chant this mantra, and then we will slow close the interview. Yeah.
Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Om Shanti.
So this mantra 12 times in the morning and in the evening. Yes, great, guys.
Yes.
You will all do this. Fantastic. So I would, for all of you that you were asking about Kaustubh's webpage and so on, I will post it in the comments. Please check. And if you have any questions about, you can email me about my part, and Kaustubh to his part. He has a new webpage, so I will post the new webpage. And let's see each other in 2 weeks. Yes, and in that time, please do watch synchronized messages around you. Be active. Yes, you start to do something about your inner voice, your inner Dharma. Just watch, observe. It's not a lot. Yeah. I know it's very difficult, but just start. Be more present. Great. So yeah.
Don't be desperate. Just give some space to observe. That's all.
Yeah.
Take a step back.
Yeah.
And start to observe.
Yeah. And things will unfold for sure. I will ask Kaustubh now for our last chant. Yes. And I wish you all well, friends, dear friends around the world, and stay in touch for the next interview about Dharma. I saw already another very, very good interviewed about mantras. Kaustubh, someone said, I forgot. So, but now we are closing this interview with Kaustubh chants. Kaustubh, thank you very much, and thank you all that you join us on this nice afternoon.
Ayatu Varada Devi Aksharam Brahma Sammitam Gayatri Chandasa Mata Idam Brahma Joshaswanaha Ojosi Om Sahosi Om Balamasi Om Brajosi Om Devanandhamanamasi Om Vishwamasi Om Vishwayuhu Om Sarvamasi Om Sarvayuhu Abhibhuro Gayatrim Avahayami Savitrim Avahayami Saraswatim Avahayami Om Shantir Shantir Shantihi. Namaste, friends.
Namaste.